What is going on, everybody? Today we are checking out Amplitube 5 Max.
Hello there.
First thing I want to say is this is not a sponsored video. I wish it was. But what I really want to get into is Amplitube 5. Amplitube for me is my main rig as far as what I use on stage, what I use in performance, what I use for church, and what I use in the studio. I've been using Amplitube since Amplitube 3, and when Amplitube 3 and Guitar Rig 4 and 5 came out, I preferred Guitar Rig over Amplitube 3. However, when Amplitube 4 came out, changed the game. That's all I use. And I've looked and looked and looked, and I've tried every software. I've compared. I've been very blessed to be able to A and B the actual amps recorded sounds with the recorded sounds that I get in Amplitube, and a lot of times it's so close, or it's right on the money, or I like Amplitube better. I know that's blasphemy to a lot of people out there that are big amp heads, but I come from the studio world, and as a musician and as what I do full time, this is all I do. This is my bread and butter, and when I look for the right sounds, I'm all about the sound. So for me, in my workflow, Amplitube is hands down the best. So when they came out with Amplitube 5, when I saw that it was going to be coming out, I pre-ordered it. Before we get into the sounds, before we get into the tones, we're going to show you what it looks like. Now this, one thing that's new, is it's scalable. This is how I usually use it, but for the sake of this review, I will be using it like this, so that it's easier to see. When you first open it up, this is what you will see. You can use this as a standalone, you can use this as a plugin. I'm using it right now as a plugin. There are some positives, there are some negatives. To me, the positives strongly outweigh the negatives, but I'm going to get into it and why certain things are still better, at least at this version, in Amplitube 4, for me, as a live performer and studio musician. So let's get to it. When you first come in, it looks like this. They changed the interface. That's all cool and all. This is what the old one looked like. Some people like the new, some people like the old. I, for one, thought this was great. I liked having all your stomps right there, having a second row right here, having your amp, having your inserts all right here, having your cab with the speaker, with the mic placement, with the room selection, with the mixer. All of this was fine to me. I'm like, how could this get any better? Then you add the rack effects. So for me, this was perfect. Sounded amazing, sounded real. I loved it, and has some global things. The new one, let's go back to the new one. Comes in here, looks different. Looks more like Bias and like line 6 type stuff. And that's cool. Some people like that. I think the new look is cool. To me, I prefer the ability to select what I'm looking at. You can select what you're looking at as far as what you want to add right here. Like you've got your stomps, you've got your amps, you've got your speakers. And you can simplify it by collection or by the type. So, you know, there's a lot of good things that you can do when you go to the speakers. You've got your speaker rooms. You've got the new stuff here, which allows you to really dig in deep with all the new impulses that they have. Now, you could do similar things like this with the old version when you were just in the room. And you could see where the mic was and the placement of it. However, it's a lot deeper now. Now you have to click on each piece in order to change the view of what you're looking at. So if I want to add this stomp, I'm going to throw this stomp in my chain. Okay, it changes the view. I've got another one, I've got another one, I've got another one, I've got another one. That's cool. If you add more, you have to scroll. This isn't really touchscreen intuitive. I have a screen up here, and then I have a big touch screen here that allows me to do my mixes, do my tracking, and when I'm using amps and recording in the studio, it's nice to just be able to click and drag down what I'm looking at. You know, like right now, I'm using my fingers. I'm not using the mouse on here. That makes it really easy. But now, when I want to get back to that, I have to go and click. Where before, it was all on the same screen. It's picky. I know it's picky, but it's my workflow. That's one thing that I don't like. Same thing with down here. Every time you add something, it adds to the chain. This you can't use your touch screen for. You can't swipe around. You see my finger swiping here, you see this little line roving around. It won't work. Whether you're using 2 fingers, 3 fingers, 1 finger, doesn't work. You have to use a mouse. You have to use the scroll wheel in order for you to move left and right. That's not very intuitive for a modern workflow with a touchscreen. Now you might say, that's really simple. I don't really care about that. But for me, it makes a huge difference in just being able to pick and choose things. They got rid of the built-in gate that's down here. So you can not have to use a stomp or an insert or a rack to do gating. Although they did have that, and a lot of people would use that for that because you can, specify a little bit better. But just the convenience of having an overall gate per preset was nice. You have to click over here for the tuner. You see how I had to scroll over and do that? Before it was just the word tuner. They have easy, which is basically the regular tuner. They have advanced, which is the ultra tuner. Here's the big thing for me. The biggest thing of them all is there are no global stomps. They got rid of the global stomp because back in this version, let's go back to 4. You had global stomps. You had stomp A and stomp B. So when you come in here and you look at your control changes, global, what do you see here? Stomp, bypass, stomp A, stomp B, 1 through 6. So no matter what preset I'm on in a live rig, all of my stomps, whatever's in the first slot, is on the first pedal. Because I run all this on a big pedal board. You have global wah, volume, presets, whammy, you tuner, play, record, 4 loops, things like that, and then you have 12 stomps. So in this version, the only global presets, there are no stomps. There are no global stomp presets. All there is volume, wah, and the whammy. You have only 2 loops now. They are undoable, so you can stack and do different things. You can layer on there. You can add to the loop, so you can have 2 different loops going or 2 different segments of the same loop. I liked when I would use this in my other version, I would load 4 songs or 4 click tracks, and I'd have a click track in the ear of just the metronome. And it would be 4 completely different songs. That doesn't exist anymore. You only got 2, and they're relayerable. It's more like a traditional looper instead of like triggering things. So I get why they did it, but like for my workflow as a live musician, that's a little unfortunate. I wish I had the option to do either the layering loops or do the triggering loops. The other thing that I wish I had an option to change the view. Like I wish there was a classic view. Like just come right over here and say, oh, do you want classic view or do you want the new view? I wish there was that option. I get why they don't have global stomps, because now in your regular mode, you can only do 6 stomps. And when you put in racks within here, let's just use this as an example. This would be where the insert section was. Okay? So we're on an insert now. So this would be like an effects loop. You can do 4, just like before. However, in the rack section, which you would think would be here, between the amp and the output, you can only have 2 things. You can only have 2 things. So you cannot have 8 racks. You can't have 2 sections of 4 like you could before. Instead, they place it after the mix, and now you can have 6. total when you're in single amp mode or this type of track. The other thing that you can do, you can split your signal path. So now with the second amp triggered, now you can add more stops. And with a third amp, you can add even more stops. And you can really get creative on how many things that you can have going at a time. So I get why they did it, because if you have your settings like this, there isn't 6. There's way more than 6. You can have 18 stops versus 12. You can add all this stuff and you can really complicate your signal flow. Now on to the great stuff. Great stuff. Everything sounds incredible. Everything sounds better. The effects sound better. The amps sound better. The cabs sound better. It's so, before it sounds like you're playing a real amp. Now, it's just a real amp. You swear it's a real amp. It sounds just like the real deal. All the amps sound better. All the amps play better. All the amps feel good. There are some things that I notice that are weird, and I can show you that when I have this preset here, I could take this exact preset, play it in Amplitube 4, sounds completely different. Now I really dialed in my sound in Amplitube 4, so that kind of gets irritating. But if you want it to sound like that, you just add a little more bass, take out more of that presence, and it'll sound closer to what it used to be. However, I like the way it sounds better. I like the changes that they did. It does sound better. Also, there's new amps. There's new amps, there's new stomps, there's new rack effects. The rack effects are a million times better. There's choices in reverb now. If you see on the side here, before you had digital reverb or 63 reverb and nothing else. I really wanted this because I love Shimmer Reverb. They finally have a Shimmer Reverb, and it sounds great. One negative on the Shimmer Reverb, when you actually load it, and we'll show it here just as an example, when you load it, I have no idea what the second mode does. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. I have no idea what the second mode does. To me, I don't really notice it. It seems like it darkens it slightly, but not enough to where I wish I had control over it. I wish there was a help bar or a help menu, like if you press F1 or if you download a book. They don't give you any information on the controls on the Shimmer Reverb, and that's unfortunate. I wish I knew what the second mode really did so that I can see why I use it. There are some sounds that I just turn it on and I like the way it sounds better. Other sounds, it sounds way better on mode 1. The shift on mode 2 doesn't really seem like it does a whole lot when you're -12 or +12, but when you're on mode 1, it definitely does. This is -12, so it's down an octave. All the pitching is going down. This is all the pitching is going up. You can do some harmony stuff in between, but most people are going to use it just as an octave. Modulation is nice. The mod rate is nice. Having that is nice. However, this is another bone to pick. I love the Shimmer, but ikmultimedia. Let's have a cutoff high pass and low pass filter so that we can just add just 2 little knobs right here, high pass, low pass, so that we can say how much of that high sound, that digital pitch, how much of that pitch is sounding like that. And also the mix knob is cool. I understand that the mix knob is great, but the mix knob affects your entire sound. So like, yeah, we've got 20% wet, so 80% dry. But your 80% dry signal is now not parallel. It's just being affected, and it changes your volumes. In order to get away from that, you have to split your signal on your second amp, put your shimmer, and then put your mix all the way up. Put your mix all the way up, turns it into a parallel. Then what I do is you take your EQ and you take the highs down. So you got to go to highs, take them all down. take them all down, take them all down. And then it sounds amazing, phenomenal. However, it would be nice if you just had a high pass knob, low pass knob underneath here. And then instead of a mix, you can have a dry knob and a wet knob. How much of your dry volume do you want? And how much of the wet volume do you want? That way, instead of coming here, having to go to the mixer, clicking on, oh, which cab is this? Oh, okay, this is the second cab. I want this down. First cab, I want, oh, no, now I have to go back to this because you can't click the cab window anymore or the mixer window. You got to click here and say, all right, I want this louder, my clean signal louder. I want my wet signal a little bit pulled back. It gets you more in the studio mindset. Basically what we've done is created a parallel chain. So I call them PCs, like parallel compressors or parallel chains. You create a parallel chain of one that's wet and then the other one is dry, and then you mix it on the mixer. But it would be more convenient how other pedals work, like a Big Sky or the Corey Wong archetype by Neural DSP has the wet dry, just the signal. How much of the effect do you want? And without affecting your dry signal, how much of the effect do you want to come in? And that is great. Same thing with the high pass, low pass. Basically, if you think about it, the reverb has it. Let's show you. The digital reverb has it. You've got color. That's basically where it's rolling off. We're going to cut everything above 4K. We only want it to be a darker, warmer reverb instead of a high, really digital sounding, kind of trashy reverb. We should have that option on the Shimmer as well. Love the Shimmer, but we need that feature. Anyways, on to the sounds. When you first turn it on, this is what you see on Amplitube 5. And the sound sounds like this. That sounds great. Compare that to the original. When you first turn that on, you hear this. And let's show you what that looks like. So we've got that here. Now, the new one, in my opinion, is a way more usable tone. It sounds way better. One, it's a different amp, first off. Second, this amp doesn't have reverb on it, so you don't have to worry about being washed out in a sound. This amp, however, does have reverb on it. You got to turn the reverb down every time. And it sounds great. It does sound great. However, that sounds better, even though it is a different amp. But let's just go to the same amp now. Same amp on its default setting. There's that spring reverb that's just too much. You turn that down. Compared to. That's 4. Here's 5. Let's do that again. Let's turn the volume up. Take some of this bass down, put some mids in, put some treble up. Now let's just copy the same settings, just to compare. So here's the same settings. That's 4. It sounds a lot more natural. It sounds a lot more natural. Here back to 4. There's like a mid-range kind of honk, but it's like almost like a high-end degradation that the presence doesn't sound as open as 5 does, where 5 then versus 4, same thing. Now if we turn that down a little bit to give it a better comparison. Versus. It's just more chimey. It's just got a little bit more breath. Now let's go back to some more. You'll see some real big differences. This is a mesa tone, a triple rectifier tone. Go to the new ones, same exact preset, triple rectifier tone. We're going to go to the humbucker on this to show you the difference. Here's 5. Here's 4. Here's 5. Back to 4. Still sounds great, but 5 just sounds clearer. It's the exact same preset. Exact same preset. I made these presets in Amplitube 4. However, them ones, when you take the exact same presets and load them into Amplitube 5, they sound different. I think they sound better. Another one that I use all the time. I don't use this one as much. I don't really play that style that much. I play a lot of cleans. So here's my main live rig sound. And then we'll load the exact same preset in 4, and you'll hear a big difference in the tone. Here's 5. Here's 4, same sound. Back to 5. So 4 is warmer on this sound, on this preset. Four is warmer. 4 is less high end. It's less present, but there's a warmth and a thickness to the sound, which I do love. That's been my main sound live, is the Super Reverb, Fender 65 Super Reverb in Amplitube 4. But 5s, it does sound different, but I really love the clarity on it. If I want that bass, that low end warmth, so it does sound different. I love the sound of 5. Absolutely love the sound of 5. Some of the new stuff, let's go through some of the new things here. We've got new amps. You've got the Friedman Pink Taco, which they call the Miniplex. Here's a triple amped sound. Great sounding. Great sounding. Keep going through. This is a diesel. Presets are really nice sounding, really usable. This one's the Archon. So this is based on the PRS Archon 50. Now you hear that wet, dry, wet. It sounds so good. What they did was your center, which is clean. You've got the Archon 50 on the other side. You've got the Pink Taco. On the other side, you've got the Diesel. So you've got all 3 of them working. You couldn't do that before. You could have 2. The only 3 that you could use that was in a 3 chain was the Brian May stuff. So like his Vox, Brian May was the only one that you could do the 3 on. So being able to mix and match like that to make a thick sound like this. It's such a great sounding, just man, it just sounds good. And I'm using all this is done on my custom Strat, noiseless pickups, single coils in the front, JB in the back, full size JB humbucker in the back. Just going through just all these. There's a bunch of different presets. There's presets to show off Amplitube Max, and they sound really, really, really nice. These ones show off the custom shop stuff. So this is all stuff that you get just in the free version. Amplitube 5, this is the stuff that you get within there. Just presets, just to kind of wet your whistle. But it's got new amps. So we'll kind of just go through. We'll go back to the default setting. And we're just going to go through the amps. This is your JCM 800. You see the amps on the left side, or right side here. You can do it by category, which you can see we have all of them here. But then you can do it by what they are, not just the collection, but what they are. All of these sound great. These are a lot of the cleans. The new ones are mostly going to be in high gain and crunch. So we'll just say Amplitube, and now we're going to go through all the Amplitube amps. So you've got this Bogner, which is new. What I love, yes, it's a dirty sounding amp, but it cleans up now. So that's the Bogner. The Paint Taco's new. So let's clean it up a little bit. Just turn down the gain a little. Let's turn up the master. It's really nice sounding amps. This is a bass amp. We'll get to that. Here's the Archon again. Right when you turn it on, you could hear the hiss, so you know it's high gain. Go to that humbucker. But it also has a nice clean channel. And let's just get some of that in here. Let's turn up the Just can't help it. They get lost in these. Then you got the diesel, which is known for its, you know, real high gain. But it's got 4 different channels. That's the bright switch. Channel 2. A little more driven. Channel 3. Very cool. Now let's get to, they added a new bass amp. Here's the new bass amp. So this bass amp is based on the Aguilar B750. So they just call it the New York B750. It was a little quiet sounding. Let's turn up. Very usable tones. You can see going through them all. It's matched with its own Aguilar 410. This is going to be the Aguilar 750. So, very nice sounding stuff. All the things are different when you go in and you add what you used to have. This used to be just a rectangular square. Now it looks like the actual pedal. Same thing with the tube screamer. It used to just be the green pedal, which it sort of looked like a tube screamer, but now it looks like an actual 909, which is what it's modeled after. Same thing with the Boss stuff. It was pretty close before. Now it's pretty much looks just like the Boss pedals. Here's the Sans amp. It just sounds really good. All the new stuff sounds good. There's more stuff. The Shimmer Reverb, because that's what you came to see. Look at who you came to see.
When them ducks, you better bow when we step on your street. When them ducks, you better look at who you came to see.
This is why I really wanted it, because now it just gives you everything that you want. So I'm going to show you what it sounds like just here at the end, but nothing else, just the shimmer. So that's just the regular one. When you throw in more of the mix, it's very nice sounding. Now tell me if you can see what this does when on mode 2. It sounds really good on mode 2. However, now let's throw some this here, all this here. It's really pretty sounding. But this is why I really like it. When you come in and you do it as a double. And I'm not even going to mess with this amp. We're just going to turn the reverb off on this one. We're going to throw in a digital delay here. That sounds like this. We're going to filter out everything there. Now, we're going to add the Shimmer Reverb to here. And the EQ, we're going to turn that mix all the way up. We're going to turn the decay on here up, the size on here up, and we're going to turn the EQ on. At the end, we're going to roll off these highs. Get rid of them, get rid of them. You're gone, see you later. Now check this out. This is why I love it. Now let's get that a little tighter. We're going to go to cab 2. We're going to turn that down to here. Now that just sounds beautiful to me. And that, my friends, is really the reason I got it. You couldn't do that in Amplitube 4. No matter how hard you tweaked it, made it work, that just sounds incredible to me. And when you triple stack it, let's show you a triple stacked one. So now here's our tone, just to show you. You got one side on the shimmer, the other side not. So we're gonna add the shimmer here, and here we go. That just sounds so good. So overall thoughts. This is just a quick, brief review. I'm not going through all the sounds. If you'd like me to do a sound breakdown or do a Q&A on the big differences or hear differences or see any differences or my thoughts, I've been using this now since it came out on the 16th. And I've just now finally gotten to sit down and say, yeah, I really, really, really like it. 1 out of 10, I give it a 9 because with a few little tweaks like the things that I said, it'd be a perfect 10. If they could somehow accommodate the live players like myself with at least a somewhat of a global stomp and bring back the option to have 4 loops and just as triggered loops instead of layering loops, that would be great. But the biggest thing for me, you have to, when you make presets, you have to manually assign every pedal to what you want to be for every single preset. So that's really irritating now, especially when you've taken the time to import your presets, create all the presets in version 4, and all of my pedals, when I open those same presets, none of them are assigned. I know because, oh, you don't have the global presets, so it doesn't work, which that's a bunch of baloney to me. But if it at least could assign, have the ability to import the assignments without having to manually go back and manually change all of those things. And then the second thing that I would absolutely love is if this shimmer had all this built in. Like all this right here, if the shimmer had the EQ just a roll off, just give us a high cut and a low cut. The high cut, you can just pull it back to wherever you want it to go, just right here, just one knob, high cut frequency, one knob, low cut frequency, and then how much of the dry do you want, how much of the wet signal do you want, so that you don't have to create these parallel chains. That would make this a perfect 10 in my book. Well, thank you all once again. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you'd like to see more, just let me know. Just let me know what we can do with Amplitube. If you want me to create some sounds, dig into individual amps. If you have any sound requests, the biggest thing for me is that Shimmer Reverb. I needed that. Nobody was showing it in any of the previews for buying it. And I'm like, I really want to hear what this Shimmer Reverb sounds like. It's a silly reason to buy a whole new plugin, but when your own plugin suite that you use for everything has everything you want in it except the Shimmer Reverb, it makes a big deal when they finally add it, along with a whole bunch of other stuff. There are so many great new rack stuff. I believe there's 19 or 20 something new rack effects, all based on, a lot of them based around the T-Racks by ikmultimedia. Everything else is just added. Like this inverse reverb sounds awesome. It does sound absolutely amazing. This has been the Amplitube 5 Max review. Is it any good? Bottom line, it's amazing. Bring back the master knob in the standalone version. Bring back the noise gate feature. Give us the option to have classic view or new view. That would be helpful. What happened to my global stomps for when I play live? That's gone. That stinks. And then the little tweak on the Shimmer Reverb. Give us a color knob or a high cut, low cut. Give us a dry, how much of the dry, how much of the wet you want on separate controls, so that we don't have to make a separate parallel and use unneeded resources for second and third amps. When we just want the 1 amp sound, we just want it to have the effect on without affecting our dry signal. Well, thank you everybody. I've been Nyne Forte. Y'all been great.